ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. Welcome everybody.
Jinx, Sushma ji, so we are going to have more and more people then, I think. We both say at the same time. Hari Om, everybody. Welcome to this session of VanaPrastha. I'm really happy to have VanaPrastha today because of Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to everyone. You know, we love you being here and we love doing this program for the community. So it's all love flowing around today. So we are going to start the program, and like you all know, today we have the doctor session in a little bit, but we are going to start with our Shivaji session, the satsang before. So this is the schedule for the day. We are going to try to do the satsang in 15 minutes and then move on to the presentation from Dr. Shah. After his presentation, we are going to do the question and answer session. But I want everyone who is present here to focus on what he is talking. So many of your questions may already be answered. If not, then you can, when we do the question and answer sessions, you can please let me know if you have a question and I'll call out your name and you can ask the question. That way one person at a time can go. So the only thing being, please talk only when your name is called so we can go in a process. You can put your name in the chat or you can raise your hand to get attention, and we'll talk after the doctor's session how the question and answer session would go. All right, Shivaji, thank you so much. You can go ahead and start with your VanaPrastha's Valentine today.
Okay, great. Let me share my PowerPoint. Okay, are you able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes, Shivaji.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you. So next 10, 12, max 15 minutes, let me highlight on VanaPrastha's Valentine. You know, we are all in that stage. Most of us are VanaPrasthas. And I'm glad to see some of the would-be VanaPrasthas also joining us. So this will be a good, initial input for them to think of the real Valentine whom we are all aiming for. So I'll touch upon this in 3 topics. The goal, which is love for God, devotion, and how we can develop it, and what are the glory of devotion, so that we are sufficiently motivated to start pursuing this path, if not already we are on the path. Okay, first let me take a minute in terms of welcoming all those who are less than 60 also. Thank you all for joining. I know you are all would be VanaPrasthas one day, but remember, retirement planning is not for the retired. Retirement planning has to start in the late 30s onwards, if possible in 40s, definitely in 50s. Then only, the retired life will be smooth. Similarly, VanaPrastha session also. VanaPrasthas, pre-VanaPrasthas would-be Vanaprasthas start planning for your Vanaprastha so that, your Vanaprastha life will be smooth. Gurudev puts a very nice story for Vanaprasthas. The title of the story is Before You Drop the Pole. Gurudev is a very uh, favorite story is this pole vault. We all would have seen the pole vault game. So the sports person with the pole, he or she runs and puts the pole on the ground, goes above that bar, and then over the bar. But before jumping over the bar, he or she leaves the pole. When that pole has to be dropped, at what point in time, to what extent, actually, to what level the pole has to be in her hold or his hold, all these things not decided in mid-air. It is all programmed, practiced, planned nicely while the pole vaulter was on the ground before actually starting the journey. And similarly, the would-be Vanaprasthas also have to plan while you are on the ground. You have to plan when you're going to drop the pole when you enter into the Vanaprastha. So it's a very nice story, I thought, from Gurudev. I'll share this so that, the occasion when you are all joining us also, it's so important actually, whenever possible you join us. And that way you'll also know how to plan for it. Okay, that's about 2-minute speech for the less than 60s. Now let's go to our main topic, devotion. Fortunately, last week, Swami Prakashanandaji talked to us about devotion and the various topics he covered. He started defining this devotion from our Narada Bhakti Sutra. Sa Twasmin Parama Prema Rupa. Devotion is indeed the nature of our love to Supreme God. Okay? So that is devotion. That's our love for the Supreme. We are very familiar with our love for the various things around us, including the beings, people around us, right? And we have day in and day out are trying to derive the happiness from the objects around us and beings around us. But over a period of time, as we grow older and older, we realize those things around us are not having actually real happiness. They are only having a shadow of the real happiness. Because if the objects are having the happiness, then the same object should be giving us happiness all the time to all the people. And more of those objects actually should give more of those happiness. Objects here includes people also, right? But that is not the case, right? Very soon we are discovering that dissatisfaction is guaranteed in those objects, right? And very soon we are discovering that temporariness of those happiness in those objects. And also, we are also discovering our dependency on those objects also increases. 3 o'clock every day afternoon, coffee, 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 or tea, 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 right? Our dependency. So the happiness we soon discover is not. So then we start wondering, oh, there's only a shadow of happiness in these things. Then where is the real happiness? So our attention starts turning away from the Vishayananda to Brahmananda. That's what our Guruji says very beautifully. Initially, Happiness are from objects and people. That's what we are all thinking and we are all enjoying initially. That's Vishyananda. And as we grow older, then we start looking for the source, the real source, where the real happiness is. And that is Brahmananda. So we start taking a U-turn and then looking for love, our love to God, where we can tap that real happiness. Our Gurudev, he puts it very nicely, as always, in a very powerful, punching quotation. Attached to the higher and detached from lower. Attached to the higher and detached from the lower. One may ask, when do I do that? And here's the answer for that. Start now. That divine life, you cannot wait. And of course, it will take some fall here and there. Like in the regular life also, we all fall. You know, the child, even he or she, the baby starts walking, the baby starts falling, gets up, and then starts walking, again falls. Then after falling also, he gets up and then walks. Similarly, the boy or girl, when we send them to swimming pool to learn swimming, you know, obviously, initially they struggle. Then they swim along. Like that, Gurudev says, the divine life will be yours when you start to live in between the frequent fall. And every time when you fall, start again, start living. Then the divine life will be, and start now. Or Kulasekara or in Mukundamala, I've given the quote there. Adyaivame, right now you start. Don't wait. Because if you wait, second line, prana prayana samaye kapavada pittaye kantavarodhana vidau smaranam kutaste. At that time, when prana is about to leave you, and kapha, vada, pitta, etc. kicks in, kantavara, when you are not able to speak anything, at that time, smaranam kudaste. You cannot think of the Lord at that time, like Bhagavan says. So start now. So that's the devotion and the path towards that, and when we can start. Now, in terms of how we can develop that devotion, there are several tips we know. Some of us are practicing this already, and various sadhanas are prescribed. And of course, satsang is one of the best methods, wherein we are always with the company of good people, company of Mahatmas, and so on. And then, of course, listening to Bhagwan's Leelas. That's beautiful. That takes us towards him. And worshipping his forms or her forms, Bhagwan's forms or Devi forms. We have several of those options, fortunately for us. Depending upon our interest, we can have our own Ishta Devata and focus on that form. And of course, the puja, japa, sintanam. And pujas also need not be, in the altar with all the samagris and all. Of course, that is best if we can. But sometimes when we are not able to, it can be manasa puja also, right? And of course, chanting japa is superb. Any mantra we take and then start chanting, that's has its own impact. And nothing like Sintaram, nothing like doing Dhyanam. And the effect of that is also in that order. Puja, Japa, Sintanam is got Kaya Vangmana, Karyam Uttamam, Pujanam, Japa, Sintanam Kramat. So that is the order in which actually the effect also is. So the developing devotion, but so many of those prescribed options are available to us. We can practice one or more of this to reach him. The last topic is on the glory. Glory of devotion, we all know. You know, we've seen several of those, and we are also, those who are practicing, we're enjoying that. And more we practice, and more we are seeing the glory. Last week, Swami Prakashananda ji told one of the highlights was person who practices devotion will cross Maya, right? And Guruji also says, Tarati Tarati Mayam. Bhakti naroy. The person who practices bhakti, he will cross the Maya. I'll take two more quotations to highlight this point. One from our Kulashekara Arwar. Very nicely highlights how chanting Bhagwan's name is the best medicine for our mind. Our mind will become healthiest by the medicine called divine medicine, which is actually chanting his name. Shreya prapti karaushadam pibhamanaha Sri Krishna divyaushadam. That is the divyaushadam. That is the divine medicine. What medicine? You know, Sri Krishna mantram. Chant as. And then you will get Shreya prapti. Oh mind. Just chanting. That's the glory. And of course, our Bhagwan also assures us that pranashyati. Nothing will name bhakta pranashyati. Nothing will happen to my devotees. Those who are dedicated, devoted to me, I will protect them. And in the second 34th sloka also, mat parayana, I will protect them. So that's the glory. So remembering this glory, I invoke our Gurudev's blessing so that we will be having more and more of stream of our love towards him and develop that devotion more and more, and so that we'll be able to abide in him as long as we can and enjoy this. With that, I turn it over to you, Sujata, to introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, Shivaji.
Okay, let me stop sharing. All right. I think, yes. Okay, good. Back to you.
Thank you, Shivaji. That was wonderful, actually. That is a reminder for all of us to think what is love and what is love which is permanent, that is going to help us achieve peace and happiness. So we are going to go to the next session. So Dr. Shah is here. I would like to tell a little bit about Dr. Shah. I know he'll think I don't know anything about him. But the first point, the reason I actually wanted him to come on board is not only because he's a doctor. I checked, he was doing one webinar earlier on COVID. That was interesting. So I went and checked out his FB page, and I would suggest anyone who's on FB should check out his page. Actually, it's like so interesting. His outlook on life, living, and relationships, I think that is so much in it's similar to what we in Chinmaya Mission try to do. So it is bringing that spiritual holistic feeling for the person to face anything. That was so much more interesting because we have been beaten down with COVID for so long. So I thought his perspective and being associated with him will bring a different flavor to our meetings. And definitely this was so much needed. I was waiting for somebody who is an expert in this who has been giving like continuous talks on this subject for our community to benefit. And to tell briefly, Dr. Shah is a resident of Atlanta now, but he has been in a couple of places in US before he settled down here, from what I see from his FB page. He's currently an ER physician at Piedmont Healthcare and Wellstar Sylvan Grove Hospital, as well as Fannin Region Hospital. So Dr. Shah has been involved in so many areas. I see that he has worked in several places in different capacities, and he has been helping people go like understand this in a very clear and simple way. That was one more thing that I thought is so beneficial to our community, especially. So Dr. Shah, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to you. You can take the stage and let us know a little bit more about you and what you're going to touch base. And if you have any questions after that, we'll go ahead and ask you and try to accommodate as much as we can today. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, thank you so much, Sujata. Thank you so much, Shivaji, and the whole Chinmaya Mission Alpharetta. And before I start, I just want to quickly introduce my Valentine Kashmira here.
Hi, how are you, everyone? Happy Valentine, everybody.
She is my backbone. She is the reason I can do all this thing, without any tension, So that is a major factor in what I do. Now, I'm really impressed by the way you guys are doing things, and I'm 52, so would be Vanaprastha soon in your definition. So I'm sure I'll be joining more of your gatherings and learning from all of you about the life and how to plan the second innings of the life. Second half, I don't know, second inning, second half, whatever you call, because the first half I realized that was to collect and gather and everything, and now the second half is to distribute back to where it came from, so that I can get out without any attachment. So I like a couple of things, Shivaji sir, you said about one was the attachment to the higher and detachment from the lower. That is one of the things that I actually practice seeing the COVID patient, and I'll tell you exactly what I practice. And the other thing I practice is chanting. And I do believe that that is the one of the biggest medication that we can use, because I don't, being allopathic doctor, my primary belief is in the allopathy, but allopathy treats the symptoms and the disease, but the treatment and the healing, these are two different things. So the healing involves a lot of unknowns that I always explore and experiment on myself. And one of them, for me, those are the major aims, like music, meditation, mantra, massage. So the chanting is a big part of my life on a daily basis. When I'm in the shower, the chanting is going on, because for me, this is, that is disease. Disease is dis-ease. You're not at ease. That is called, why is called disease. So the chanting brings me back to that easiness, because you are in the harmony with your body, mind, and soul are in harmony, and that brings you in harmony with the universe. So I use that big time myself. Now, we do want to detach from the lower, and the body may fall into that category of detachment eventually, because we are taught that we came from Panch Mahabhuta and we're going to go back to Panch Mahabhuta. But until we go back to Panch Mahabhuta, we need to really take care of this body, because this is a temple for us, because this is the only place God has given us for our soul to reside in. So taking care of the body is very, very, very important while we are alive. And the health is something that you will notice when you're not healthy. And same thing with COVID. You will notice when you get the COVID. Until then, you won't know what COVID means. And I've been saying COVID patient from the day one, basically. And with God's blessing, nothing happened to me. I used to check my antibody titers every few weeks, and every time it was negative. That means I never got infection, and I already got my vaccines, and now my antibody titer is positive. So I have sailed through this whole thing, and it's not over yet. It will be probably over by end of the year, but there are few things that I have applied that I will share once I cover the major part, which is vaccine, which most of you have questions and concerns about. So I'm going to start painting the picture of how 2020 is going to look like. Obviously, you still seeing that every day around 3,000 people are still dying of COVID. So it is still there. Okay. But gradually it is going to go down because more people will be infected and more people will be getting vaccine. So the number of the people, see right now around 70, 80 billion people are in the category where they have received the vaccine or they got the infection. So those are kind of considered as the protected people. But we really need around 70 to 80% of the people to get in that category, and we don't want people to get infected and get in that category, but we want people to get vaccinated. Now I know there are two major conspiracy theories. One is whether this virus is actually made up virus or it's a real biological thing. So we are not going to go in that political discussion. And the second thing is a lot of people believe that the vaccine is a scam, the conspiracy theorist. So that part also we are not going to discuss. I'm going to present from the scientific perspective what it is, how it works. I'm going to show you and explain you a few immunological and how body responds to the infection, and how body responds to antigen that is introduced into the body. uh, Now, am I on the speaker view or I can't see myself, Sujata?
Yes, Daksha, I pinned, you are on mute right now, but yes, I pinned your screen, so everyone should be seeing it. Do you want to share your screen or are you fine?
No, I don't need to share screen. I'm just going to use my hands and my body language to explain a lot of
I
things.
would,
And I got a little few.
just a minute,
Sorry,
Daksha.
go ahead.
I did pin Dr. Shah's screen. I would like everyone, you should be seeing Dr. Shah on the screen. If not, you can go to the speaker view or just see that you don't go and click on the gallery view. Yeah.
Okay,
Shivaji?
because on my screen,
Yes. I'm seeing you as a speaker view, full screen,
Yeah, full
doctor.
screen. I pinned your screen.
okay. So because I'm seeing Sujata only, so I don't know why, but anyway, that's okay. As long as as long as you are seeing me, because I'll be using props to explain things, so I don't want you to kind of have a small screen where you can't see what I'm showing you. So the whole year that thing will go on. You will have cases of COVID going on, and then gradually it will go down, and then you will have people who will have lingering COVID symptoms that will have, some will have chest pain, shortness of breath, things like that, and then you will have some people who will be diagnosed with breast cancer. They didn't think that they had it because they could not see the doctor last year, and there are a lot of surprises in a lot of people that say, I wish I knew about this last year, something like that. So be prepared for those kind of surprise diagnoses this year. So anyway, so now walking back, we are in a place where the vaccine is talk of the town. Everybody knows the hand washing and the social distancing and a mask, so I'm not going to spend time on that.
Dr. Shah, it's on mute.
Volume.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. So now the vaccine. So vaccine, a lot of people ask me which vaccine is the best vaccine. My simple answer is the one that you have access to is the best vaccine. No matter where you are, the one that you can get is the best vaccine. Now, how do you escape this COVID virus? There are four ways you can escape COVID virus. Is the first and the least desirable is to get the infection and survive the infection. That is the one way to escape the COVID in the long term. The second way to do is to have your innate immunity. such that you don't get not only COVID, but you get no other infection. You basically are immune to a lot of things. As I said that I've been working with the COVID patient and I never got the infection. So uh, thank God for my strong innate immunity where COVID did not touch me despite being close to the COVID patient. Now, that is the second. So there are two types of immunity. One is called innate immunity, and the other is adaptive immunity. Innate immunity is like a first responder. When you call 911, the people who show up right away, that's called innate immunity to take care of the stuff. But then sometimes things may be out of hand, and then you will need a special forces to come and take care of the stuff. That is called adaptive immunity. So I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But for now, remember there are four ways you can escape. One is to get the infection and survive the infection. Second is to have such a strong innate immunity that your body will fight any infection. The third is a herd immunity, HERD. Herd immunity is the immunity where more than 90% of the people get the infection or the vaccine, and they basically, the community is immune. So that rest of the 10-20% of the people, they automatically become immune. The simple example for the herd immunity is polio. See, the polio and the smallpox is considered as an eradicated. Not that everybody has taken the vaccine, because there is a definite number of the people in this world who are totally against any kind of vaccine. They will not take any vaccine no matter what. So there are people who never take vaccine. That means not 100% people are vaccinated, but still they are also protected because of what we call as a herd immunity. So for COVID, the expert says that we need around 70% of the people to get infection or vaccine to develop the herd immunity. So we need, if you count, 350 million people in America, so we need more than 200 million people at least, I would say at least 250 million people who are either infected or vaccinated to develop that herd immunity. So that will happen eventually, but probably it won't happen before end of the year. So you have a choice either to wait until end of the year and hope that the herd immunity will protect you, especially if you are against the vaccination. That is your only option other than the innate immunity. But the best option is vaccine. Why? I'm going to tell you step by step. Now, just for example, I think 30 million people, 20 plus million people have been infected in US, and more than half a million have died. Same number of people have been vaccinated, and I think maybe one or two people have died, and we don't even know whether that's related to vaccine really or not. But let us even assume that they died because of the vaccine. So the number of the deaths in the people who got infected and died is pretty high. More than half a million people already dead, versus people who got vaccine and died is next to zero. So it is a simple logic that which category you want to be. If you don't have a strong innate immunity, meaning thereby like if you get a sore throat and upper respiratory infection or pneumonia or all kinds of infection, sinus infection, ear infection, if you're one of those who are catching those infection every year or twice a year, that means your innate immunity is not that good. Like if you ate some food in a restaurant and next day you got diarrhea, that means your body is not able to handle the junk. That means you don't have a strong innate immunity. So you need to decide if you don't have a strong innate immunity, and if you are in age group, which is basically Vanaprastha is that age group where you are at more risk of dying because of the disease compared to if you were in your 20s and 30s. Plus, if you have diabetes or any lung problem or obese, luckily we don't have that problem in Indian community of being morbidly obese, but still, it does play a role. So if you are in that particular category, and most of we are, then you have to decide whether you want to die because of the infection versus you want to take a vaccine and take a chance. So that is the thing. So once again, to summarize 4 ways: innate immunity, infection, herd immunity, and the vaccine. So now we are coming back to vaccine. Now, before we understand vaccine, because the purpose of the vaccine is to do what? See, this is the battle between the body and the bug. Bug means the virus. So we have to decide who is going to be strong. See, so far the virus was strong, but eventually the body has to be strong. Now, we have to understand one interesting biological and to some extent spiritual understanding of any species, whether it's a human being or a plant or an animal or a bacteria or a fish or a virus. Any soul or any life that comes in the existence, they have two purpose only, biological purpose I'm talking about. I'm not talking about spiritual purpose, but I will translate into the spiritual understanding. The two biological purpose is what? Is to survive. First one, every species wants to survive. Like, if you go to Amazon's jungle, uh, you will see tall trees. Why? Because they want to survive. They are fighting for the sunlight. So higher you go, more you get the sunlight. So that's a tree survival. We went to South Africa, and when you take a safari, you see there are only two things happening in those jungles of South Africa: survival. Everybody is either worried about how they're going to eat somebody else or how they can prevent themselves from being eaten by somebody else. And when they are done with that survival part, the second part is the reproduction. That's all they do. Okay. So human being is the same thing, and the virus is the same thing. The coronavirus did not come to kill us. Whether China brought it or not, that's a different story. But it did not come to kill us. It came to survive and multiply. And in that process, what happened that our immunity reacts too strongly. Most people die because the immunity that we have, it reacts too strongly. I'm going to explain you what happens. So the eventually what happens that it is in the best interest of the virus to get adjusted to human body. And that is what is happening with the mutation, like you read in the newspaper, oh, UK variant and Brazil variant and South African variant. The media will use the word new strain to scare people, but it's not a strain, it is a variation in the protein that I'm going to show you in a minute. So the virus is adjusting because eventually the goal of virus it is to live with us peacefully. And there are so many bacteria and viruses who live with us peacefully without any problem in our body. If you go in our gut, there are billions and billions of bacteria who live in our gut. Okay. So this is nothing new. Virus has been mutating for ages. So don't get scared about the mutation word because that is a part of the virus's adjustment. Now, the vaccine. What are we trying to do with the vaccine? We are trying to first to see if we can stop virus entering our body. The second thing we are trying to do is, let us say, even if it entered, we don't want to get a disease. And the third thing is that we don't want, if at all we get the disease, we don't want to have a life-threatening disease. So that is what we are trying to achieve with the vaccine. Now, how the virus kills, because if you want to defeat the enemy, you need to understand the enemy first. So I'm going to use this prop. Just can everybody see this? Okay, that's fine. Just yeah. Okay, good. So this is the container to put the onion in my house actually, but coronavirus actually looks like this with the spike on its surface. There are multiple spikes all over. So we're just going to point towards this one spike, and remember this spike because it is very, very important to understand how the virus kills and how the vaccine works. So when you get the virus through your nose, it goes down in your lung. And in the lung, there are cells, we call them pneumocytes. Pneumo means air and cytes, cytes means cell. So the virus, this is called spike protein, spike, spike protein. So virus gets attached to the lung cells, and then Basically, virus goes in the cells and takes over the cell's own machinery and the stuff and starts multiplying itself and it kills the cells and then goes to other cells and multiplies, and then the immunity kicks in and the immunity reacts too much. And that is why probably you have heard the word called cytokine storm. Cytokine. Cyto means cell, kines means chemicals. Cells, chemicals are released into the body in the lung and you get the pneumonia, then you die. That is how people die because of the COVID virus, coronavirus. So if you understood that part, what should be your, like Arjun was just looking at one thing, which is the eye of a fish. So that is what we are looking at. Is this is spike protein because if you destroy this spike protein one way or the other, then the virus will be basically impotent. Virus won't be able to do anything. So the vaccine is trying to take care of that part. How? Now, how do you get what happened that when you get the spike protein in your body, as I said, that the first responder comes at the local site and they are called macrophages. Macro means big, phages means the cells that eats. So the macrophages tries to eat the virus, then neutrophils and other immune cells that comes in the picture. But they are not strong enough. When virus starts multiplying, they're not strong enough to contain it. So they have to send a message to their high command. And the high command starts making specific, I don't know whether I may not, you remember the 26/11 in Mumbai, the Taj Hotel, the terrorist came. So when they started shooting, the first people came in the picture was Mumbai police. So that is your innate immunity, that is your first responder, but they're not strong enough. Like when the terrorist went into that building, the Parsi building, and they had to bring the commando down from the helicopter. So that is what happened, that the Mumbai police gave a message to the high command saying that we need help. So then the high command sends the specially trained commandos to take care of the terrorists. So same system in our body. First comes the innate immunity. They try to contain the infection, and most people who survive the COVID virus infection have a strong innate immunity that takes care of the infection, and they just get a little bit of cough, cold, and sneezing and fever for 2-3 days, and then everything is done. But when you are in the Vanaprastha, your innate immunity is not that strong. So you need a help from the high command to take care of this spike protein. Okay, so the spike protein, and that is called adaptive immunity, where they make a specific commandos against this spike protein. So if there's something else comes, they may not be able to destroy that, but they will destroy this for sure. So with the vaccine, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create commandos we call as a B cells and T cells. B for bone marrow and T for thymus. Your thymus gland is here. So that is where the T cells are created and the B cells. So those are the specially trained commandos. So the B for bone marrow, they produce antibodies. So let us assume that this is antibody. This is from my kitchen again. So these antibodies, what they do is they come at the side wherever they see the virus, they attack this spike protein. And once this is destroyed, the virus is gone. So if you logically understand what should be your goal should be to figure out how to get this. Once you get this, you're not worried about this because this is going to take care of this. Now, this is called antibody, antibody, antibody against the COVID virus. Now, you have two ways to create that. The one way is to get the infection itself, and body will create this. But if you get the infection, then you have a 5% chance of probably dying. You don't want to take that, right? So when you take a vaccine, it produces the same thing. Now, how does vaccine do that? That is what I'm going to explain you. Okay. So the vaccine, see what happens that this coronavirus has a software inside the virus. Let us say this is the software. Okay. This is a fork. This software basically codes, if anybody, if you're in IT, probably will understand it better than me. So this codes for this spike protein. So when this goes in the cells of the human, it will tell human to make this. So you need this to make this, right? So what the companies have done now, this is the whole thing that codes for the whole virus, but only this part codes for the spike protein. So what companies did is that they say, you know what, we don't need the whole thing. So they just took this part that codes for the spike protein. And basically this code is called mRNA, messenger RNA. So they only took this part, mRNA, and they say, you know what, we're going to coat this in a lipid layer because you have to let it go in the cell, right? So you need a vehicle. It won't be able to walk on its own, the mRNA. So you need a specialized vehicle. So there are multiple vaccines available in the market. One is Moderna, the other is Pfizer. So they both have the same technology. They use this software from the virus. So they don't use the virus. So there is no virus in the vaccine. Then they cover it with the lipids, and then you get injected. So that is a Moderna and Pfizer. Now both have a different proprietary lipid bilayer, so they have a different storage requirement. But as an end user, you don't have to worry about all those things as long as you know what you're getting, right? So that lipid bilayer is in the Moderna and the Pfizer. Now eventually you will start getting Johnson and Johnson vaccine also, like most people are getting in India, Covishield vaccine, the AstraZeneca vaccine. So those vaccines, AstraZeneca and Oxford vaccine, Covishield, they used adenovirus, which is actually a better vehicle to deliver the mRNA compared to lipid bilayer. But the problem with adenovirus, not right now, but let us say, God forbid, and in our lifetime, 20 years now from now, or 30 years from now, another virus comes and we need to make another vaccine. Then if you made a vaccine with the adenovirus, then your chance of getting a response to the adenovirus vaccine after 30 years is lower. But we don't worry about what happens 30 years from now because we need to take care of it right now. Because when the vaccine is made with adenovirus, it has less strict storage requirements. So for the developing country, that is a blessing because they may not have that strict temperature control and other stuff. So that is why Covishield is so popular in India. I don't think Moderna, Pfizer is there anyway, because they use adenovirus. The only trick here is that they use the chimpanzee adenovirus. So don't get scared by that word, chimpanzee adenovirus. Why? Because human body is exposed to human adenovirus, which is like a cold virus. So you already have those commandos created in your body against that cold virus. So when you deliver the vaccine through that human adenovirus, it will actually destroy the vaccine. That's why they use the chimpanzee virus. And then Johnson and Johnson and Russian Sputnik vaccine, they used a human adenovirus. So it doesn't matter what vehicle they use, and you don't have to kind of get yourself bogged down by the vehicle. You just remember that all those vaccines, like the other vaccine in India, that is a Bharat Chemicals or Bharat Pharmaceutical is making, that is different. That is not an mRNA vaccine. What they did, they basically, if this was a virus, they killed the whole virus. They made this virus, not kill as such, but they made this software incompetent to replicate. So basically they castrated the virus in such a way that it won't multiply, but they made it dead, and they are using that virus to create the same antibody that I showed you, because this is the final thing that everybody wants to create these antibodies against the spike protein. So when you take a vaccine, like if you take a first dose here, what happens that the cells in your body, there, the dendritic cells and the myocytes, the muscle cells, it takes up the mRNA from the lipid layer, and then it creates the spike protein in your cells, just like this, not exactly same, but similar to this. And the training center they will take everybody and create the command out of it. So whether you have exact protein or similar protein, they will still make the same command out of it. Whether the person came from Gujarat or Andhra Pradesh, when the final product comes as a commando, they will have the same training, so they will be able to do the same job. So that is a whole trick that the science has done, is to create the mRNA, the software that makes a protein which is similar to this spike protein, so that it creates this antibody. So what happens that when you have that virus enter in your body, because the coronavirus is all over, so you're not going to escape it. The thing is, it's going to enter your body, but it won't do anything. Why? Because you will have this commando ready. The moment it enters, it will go and destroy it. So that is how the whole vaccine works. Now, some of the common questions about the vaccines, like the dosing schedule, is Pfizer is day 1 and day 21, so 3 weeks apart. Then the Moderna is same day 1 and day 28, actually 4 weeks apart. Then Covishield is the same thing, 4 weeks apart. Johnson and Johnson is, I think, one dose. Sputnik, I don't know, because the Russian vaccine, we don't know much about it. But uh, typically 1 to 2 dose for most of the vaccines. So some of you might ask the question that why 2 doses, not just 1 dose? Well, that's how the companies did the research. A year from now, they may come out saying that, you know what, 1 dose is enough. As a matter of fact, in my case, I actually developed the antibodies, which you can test in the blood on day 23rd, because in my hospital I could check it, and on day 23rd, my antibody titer was positive after the first dose. So the second dose obviously is going to add on to that. And the other thing is the side effects. That what are the side effects? So I'm going to tell what happened to me, and that is most of the people have the similar symptoms. Not everybody, but the first dose, most of the time nothing happens. You will have a soreness in the left, wherever you got the shot. Like, after any shot, you get the soreness and a little bit of difficulty moving the arm, and sometimes you have some redness. So it just, you put the ice on it, take Tylenol or Motrin, and you should be fine next day. It takes 24 hours to go away. Then after the second dose, actually a lot of people get more reaction. And that is understandable, because if you take the same analogy, if there was only one terrorist attack, the commando will come and take care of it. But if it happens again within 1 month, then the whole country, like 911, if it happens second time within 1 month, then it's a totally different scenario, because then it's a pattern. So when you get a second dose of the vaccine, your body suddenly say, you know what, there's something else is going on. So we need to start acting more. So your B cells, that is a bone marrow cells, let us assume that this is your B cells. So it has to start working more, because the B cells thinks that there is a more danger, and we have to make more antibodies. So the bone marrow starts producing a lot of B cells, and the bone marrow is in the sternal area, in your long bones, in your hip bones. So those bones will start aching. So if you get that aching feeling, don't worry about it. That's when you know that the production is going on. Then all this, when the production starts in any factory, you're going to see some junk. Okay, so that junk we call it cytokines, and that cytokines will float in the body, and that will give you body aches, might get a little bit low grade fever, some nausea. So if you get this, don't get scared. It typically lasts 24 to 27 hours, but not everybody gets it. So don't get scared about it. Actually, my mom's second dose is tomorrow. So if it happens, you just take Tylenol and Motrin and you should be fine. So that happens in most of the people. Having said that, there is a good chance that you might be allergic to the vaccine and you might get severe reaction. So can anybody predict that? No, but that is true for any medication, any shot you get, that you can develop allergic reaction and you can die. Like penicillin, people have died because of the penicillin shot. So, but that is a very small risk compared to the benefits that the vaccine will give you. So that's a short-term side effect. Now the long-term, If somebody tells you that this is what happens in the long term, or if somebody tells you that nothing happens in the long term, both of them are lying because we don't know. It's only less than a year's experience with the science. So scientifically, nobody can tell what will happen 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It's just illogical to understand that way. But based on the technology, we know, compared to the iPhone we use and compare that with the Razor phone we used 5 years back, we know that certain things won't happen in the iPhone, right? So same thing with this vaccine technology. We know that now we are using mRNA, so we know that certain kind of cross reactivity would not happen because it's not biologically possible. So when you look from that perspective, the chances of long-term side effect are very, 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 very low. So you should not be worried about it. What happens 5, 10 years from now, because you want to live right now, then you'll be alive after 5, 10 years. Otherwise, there's no question of what happens 10 years from now, right? So uh, then the other question comes is that, so how long it lasts? Now, I'm going to use the same analogy of those commandos. Like, commando has to be trained on a regular basis. Otherwise, the muscle memory that they have to run the AK-47, it goes away, because if you don't practice, you lose that memory in your body. So same thing is, ideally, theoretically, in your body, once you get any infection, your body, the B cells and T cells becomes, we call it the memory. Actually, their name is memory cells. We call them memory cells. That's a scientific name. Why? Because they keep the memory of this spike protein forever. Okay. Now, when I say forever, what does it mean? That memory is there, but what happens that they go back to their barrack or quarter or wherever they're supposed to stay, and then they rest because there is no terrorist. So if you want to wake them up, you have to call them and say, look, we got the infection again, so come on over. So that call that we have to give them might come as a booster dose, like a tetanus shot, you get booster dose every 10 years. Why? We have to wake up the immune systems. Hey, look, don't go to sleep. We might need you in 30 minutes or in 30 hours or something like that. So at this point, we know for sure that the vaccine works for at least 9 months, because that's the time we have, and so far, and we know that, hey, it's been showing antibody positivity at least for 9 months. So you should feel comfortable for 9 months anyway after the vaccine, and by that time the herd immunity will come in the picture, so you will even feel more safer. Now, as I said, that in our scientific community, we all believe that it should last at least for 2 years. Okay. And eventually, when the COVID will go down, 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 when there's not much exposure to COVID, then we might have to get a booster dose every, I think CDC probably will come up with a recommendation saying that you need a booster dose for every 2 years or something like that. So be prepared that eventually you will be required to get a booster dose every 2 years for the COVID vaccine. And there may be some component of the business part of it. So we won't go in that detail. Companies want to make money too. So they want to keep their thing going. So eventually there may be some trials which say, well, you need to have every 2 years, something like that, just like a flu vaccine. But anyway, so that is the duration of the protection. And then there may be some concerns. I know in this group, nobody probably drinks alcohol, but that is one of the common question that I get, that when can I start drinking alcohol? There are some people who just can't live without alcohol. So it may not be relevant, but since I started the topic, I'm just going to quickly cover that part also. The alcohol stays in your body, in your breath for a few hours, but in your body at least 4 or 5 days. And alcohol does suppress your ability to build the immunity. So you should at least stop drinking alcohol 5 days before. And the company's vaccine monogram says that you are considered as an immune 7 to 14 days after your second dose. So that means after your first dose, at least 45 days after that. So 5 days before the first dose and 45 days after, you should not be drinking alcohol. And obviously same thing applies with the smoking part also. Should not be smoking to mount a good response. So and then there was some WhatsApp messages circulating around saying that, oh, they're using the fetus tissue in the vaccine. They kill the fetus and then they use the tissue. So I'm going to clarify that part also, the fetus tissue part, that this is a vaccine that's supposed to work in the human. So they have to do the trial in the human tissue before they actually inject the vaccine in the human, living human. There is a trial before that in the laboratory. They put the vaccine in the human tissue to check for it. So that is the checking part. The making part. Now, what happened that the tissue that they use has been around since 1975. So this is not something they killed somebody yesterday and made a vaccine out of it. No, it's not like that. Somebody had a planned abortion in 1970. There are two cell lines. One is owned by Johnson and Johnson, and other is open to everybody. So most of the companies in the world have been using these cell lines since 1975. So if you ever got vaccinated, you already got a vaccine which was dependent on those cell lines. So that question is kind of out of the window. But so that human cell lines was a planned abortion of a fetus. That mother decided to abort the fetus, and that fetus's kidney cells were harvested, and they have been multiplying those cells in the laboratory for last 45 some years. So there is no new fetus killed or anything. And for the Moderna and Pfizer, they created mRNA, like it's like a software they created. So they didn't have to use the cells to make the vaccine. But for AstraZeneca, they had to use, because they use the chimpanzee virus, and they had to make sure that the virus doesn't multiply in the vaccine. So they had to make the chimpanzee virus important so that it doesn't multiply. But they wanted to multiply the cells to make the vaccine. So they had to use that human cell lines to get the vaccine amount. You know, 10 cc, 50 cc, 1 gallon, 10 gallon material. That's how you get it from the human cells. But after the vaccines were made, they put the chemicals in that, and that destroys the human cells. So for the Covishield vaccine, which is adenovirus vaccine, they did use the human cells. But when you take the vaccine, there are no human cells in the vaccine, any vaccines. So you don't have to worry about that. But if your religious belief says that you cannot use anything that is a human cells use, well, then probably you won't, if your kidney fails, then you won't get a kidney donation from somebody. Or if your cornea is damaged, you won't get a corneal transplant, because that's a human tissue you're getting from somebody else, right? So that was about the human tissue use in the vaccine. So I guess that's all in nutshell I have. If you have any question, we can go over it. I know we are kind of running a little bit late in the time also. So go ahead, Sujata ji or Shivaji, you can go ahead and ask the question.
Okay. Nalini auntie, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the gallery view so everyone can see. Nalini auntie, do you want to go ahead first? But from what you spoke, Dr. Shah, like there is one a question which is going along with it. We were talking about penicillin, I think. Vidya, do you want to go ahead and ask first? Then we'll go to Nalini auntie.
Sure. Thank you so much for that informative session, Doctor. And my question was, if I'm allergic to penicillin, do I need to mention that when I take the COVID vaccine?
Obviously, yes, but it may not have any relation to it, whether you will get allergic reaction or not, because the two aspects of it, that you're just allergic to penicillin, nothing else, or you have kind of a tendency to react to almost a lot of stuff. A lot of people are allergic to this and that, and so many things they're allergic to. So if you're allergic to too many things, then I would suggest that you get a vaccine where there is a help available right away. Like instead of taking a vaccine in the Kroger pharmacy, in the Kroger store, you would rather be taking it some clinic where the doctor is available to take care of it just in case. Yeah,
just in case. Got it. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you again for this whole session. It was very good.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, I think, actually. Like taking it in the hospital. Yeah, that's a good point to think. Nalini auntie, do you want to go ahead?
Actually, doctor, thank you. You have cleared so many doubts. I just wanted one medicine, and I got some dizziness and loss of appetite after the first vaccine. So, is there any medicine for the dizziness? Suppose if I get again, day after tomorrow, I have to get a second dose. I was feeling so dizzy. I was sleeping the whole day and the other day also. And after that, I felt too much of fatigue.
And
So,
how long it lasted?
nearly 2-3 days. And fatigue was nearly 2 weeks. Actually, I am also very old, 79 I am. But I'm not, my health is not so bad. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
I have
Now,
heart problem I have got.
okay. Because in your case, blaming it on the vaccine would be the last thing I would like to do, because you have other problems. You really, if it happens again, you would really want to see the doctor and make sure there is no other reason for dizziness, because typically dizziness is not reported that much with the vaccination. But it doesn't mean that it cannot happen, because we don't know yet. This is a brand new thing for all of us. But if it happens again, you may want to just check your heart first and make sure there is no out of rhythm or anything.
Okay. And suppose nausea is there, then is there any medicine for the seniors?
Well, you can take the prescription medication Zofran, but if it is just a mild nausea, you can take Benadryl.
Okay, Benadryl.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Benadryl would be okay. Okay, sure.
Okay, Shankarji, do you want to go ahead next?
I think is muted.
Thank you, doctor. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the very informative session, doctor. I have two questions. One is relating to this COVID. The other is not relating to COVID. I don't know. Madam Sujata will permit for the non-COVID question. Anyhow, let me first go to the first question. My daughter-in-law is visiting us from Chicago, is breastfeeding her 3-month-old son, and her first dose is planned this week, I think. Is there any problem in she taking the vaccine? Breastfeeding the 3-month-old son?
It should not, but again, the same answer that none of us know yet, because this is so new to all of us that this part, whether it causes any problem with the breastfeeding, we don't know yet. But how old is she? How old is she?
Daughter-in-law?
Yeah.
Daughter-in-law is around 37, 38.
So how is she getting vaccine? Based on what? Is she a healthcare worker?
Okay. No. What do you call it as a
caregiver.
Caregiver.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, means based on my understanding, she should be okay. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a scientific statement. It's my personal opinion rather than any research statement.
Okay.
She should be okay.
Yeah, because it hasn't been researched in that area, they said yet. So it doesn't.
Right. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. You want to try the question? Then we'll see what it is.
It is something related to those people who are in USA.
Oh, that we'll do next time, Shankarji. Yeah,
Okay.
we have. I would like to talk to Dr. Shah, and we'll do some other session for now.
Yeah.
Meenaji, you have.
Yeah. If it is any personal question, you can always call me. I'm the most approachable person you can ever find.
I was about to ask you that.
Yes, he is. Yes.
I will take a number from Sujata madam.
Yes, you should check him out on FB too. I know. I mean, I was so surprised actually. Meenaji has a good question. She says, like, if we report side effects we feel through VSafe, do you recommend kind of follow up as it may benefit the community? She says,
yeah, I do it. I still get text messages on a regular basis from VSafe. And I do report it, because that way CDC has more data to predict what kind of side effects and other stuff you are getting. So I think you should do it, the VSafe part, yeah.
Okay, and one more thing, Meenaji was saying is, if you drink more water, is it better? Like the side effects does it affect or does it impact?
See, this COVID has made everybody a scientist. So, and the thing is that everybody has their own belief, even including me. For example, I've been drinking the kada of ginger, turmeric, honey, and lemon for last year and a half. And that is my belief that that has given me strong immunity. Now, whether it is true or not, only God knows. So, same thing, anybody who has recovered from COVID, they have their own kind of a personal thing. They said, if you do this, you will not get a COVID, or if you do this, you will be okay in the COVID. So it's a personal thing. But drinking water is always good. So I would not say that you should not drink water. Yeah, it's a good thing.
I think it is of that view, actually, like you can flush out the toxins from the body. I think that is what, but side effect, but I'm definitely thinking like speaking to Naliniji's effective, taking water is definitely better, I think, like being hydrated when you are going through something after taking the vaccination might help, I'm thinking.
With some exceptions, like if you have a heart problem and you have a congestive heart failure or you have a kidney failure, then you have to be very careful about how much water you put in your body, because then you will start retaining the water. But for most people, by default, yes, water is the best medicine.
No, I drink
Yeah.
too much of water. More than what I need. I always feel thirsty. Just now I'm having the water.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
doctor,
Same thing.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Shivaji.
Go ahead.
Doctor, thank you again. It is so informative. I really appreciate you covered all things in a very structured way. One question I had was the reaction, is it gender dependent? That is, the reason why I'm asking is one of our couple friends, they both took the first dose and then second dose. And second dose, the lady got more reaction than the man. And we are due, me and Sushma ji, we are due next week. So I'm just asking this, whether it is gender dependent.
Well, biologically, women are stronger than men, but we don't know for sure. Same answer that, but so far, we are not any specific research saying that, okay, women get more reaction compared to men. No. So it may be just, we call it the anecdote, where you kind of say, well, this guy get more reaction than wife, or vice versa. But that doesn't mean it's a generalizable statement. It may be just one or two isolated incidences. So, and there's a 50% chance if a husband and wife gets a medicine, a vaccine, then either wife is going to get more sick or the husband is going to get more sick. So there's no specific science. So you don't have to worry about who is going to get more sick. You should pray that she doesn't get sick so that she can take care of you.
Yes, exactly. that is exactly why Shivaji is asking.
Doctor, I also want some question.
Sure.
Shashiji?
I have taken injection on the first injection I had taken, and second is going to on 26. And some pain was there, 2 days pain was on the hand. The second injection, which hand I should take? I want to take the same hand. What should I do?
Well, everybody has a different opinion about that. The reason I took on the same hand is because I'm right-handed, and that's how I work. So I don't want my right hand to be kind of a difficulty in moving. But if you're still hurting there, you might be better off taking on the right side.
No, not now.
Okay, then
it's not hurting. 2 days only.
Then it means logically, there's no specific science behind it, whether you take on the same arm or the other arm. Like, one theory might say, well, if you irritate the same cells again, then you may get a better response. That is one thinking. The other thinking that, well, you already irritated one side, so why don't you recruit more cells on the other side? That way you get better response, but nobody has proven that yet. So either way is fine. So if you're right-handed and if you're doing a lot of stuff from the right hand, for 24 hours, you may be in misery not to be able to do that with the right hand. So that it should be more related to your activity of daily life rather than any real science for it. If you can handle the pain in the right arm, then that's fine. Go for it.
No, then it is better to take on the left hand also again. I think so.
That's fine. It's your personal choice. There's nothing wrong either way. You can take left or right. I took on the same side because I didn't want my right hand to kind of
Yeah.
get in difficulty to move. Yeah.
Dr. Shah, my wife Kamni has a
Yeah.
question that she's put me up to. If we've had BCG
Sure.
vaccine in our life, does that provide more immunity for COVID,
Well,
against
that
COVID?
that was the research a few months back, and people say that it does provide it, and it has not proven yet, but that's a possibility because the BCG vaccine induces we call it the cellular immunity, and that may have played some role in India because most of us are vaccinated with the BCG in India, and who knows, the number of the deaths are less in India, and one of the factors may be BCG vaccine, and I guess in a couple of years, somebody will come up with the final analysis. I'm sure a lot of people are looking into why India did so well during the pandemic, and they will go through a lot of stuff, including
But
diet and
obviously, it doesn't provide total immunity because there have been
no.
deaths and so forth in Indian community as well,
Oh
in
yeah,
India
yeah,
and
means
here.
oh yeah. Means BCG is not a replacement for COVID vaccine. It is a complementary thing, if at all it is. We don't know, but BCG vaccine is like we all got it, so there's nothing you need to do about it anyway. So if it's going to help, it's going to help. If not, no big deal. But you still need this one for sure. And then some
Thank you
people were
very,
asking me. Go
Thank you
ahead.
so
thank
much.
you
Go ahead,
very
Meena.
much for your wonderful presentation, Rakeshji. I have a quick question for diabetics, some of them that wear the continuous reading sensors on their arm
Mhm.
for scanning.
Mhm.
Does the taking the vaccine on the same arm affect the diabetes scanner at all or not?
It should not. It should not affect because the vaccine itself doesn't contain any glucose, and vaccine doesn't go into your blood. It goes into your muscle. So the muscle cells takes up the mRNA. So theoretically, it should not affect the measurement of the blood glucose.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Shah, this is a question
Ina is from
on,
San Francisco. She's speaking.
Sorry?
She joined us from California.
I saw that. Yeah, San Jose. Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
yes, sorry. Yeah, right. So just wanted to know. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
A question. If you take Shingrix shots, how much gap you have to give for the COVID shots? Is there any requirement, or you can take it within a week?
Exactly. The reason is not means obviously we don't know how the immune cells will interact if you take it together or back to back. Plus, the side effect wise, you won't know whether it is a side effect of the COVID vaccine or the side effect of the Shingrix. So, at least 1 week gap is good thing to do, I would suggest. That's what a lot of our colleagues were discussing. And whatever we are saying is based on our best kind of judgment. It's not a science yet. Again, same thing that what that makes sense that if you keep a 1 week gap, then you will be able to mount enough response to both the immune. Otherwise, you will confuse your B cells and T cells. Okay, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to make antibody against shingles virus or a COVID virus? Okay, so you don't want to confuse your immune system either. So that way, you're going to keep it separate for 1 week.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, definitely isolating the results or the effects also is easier for doctors to understand, I think. Okay,
And
Dr. Shah, sorry, were you saying something?
Yeah, I guess some of may not have, there one question that comes quite often is that, do I need a vaccine if I already had an infection? That is another thing that, yes, because when you are infected, basically what happens that your body mounts the response against the whole virus. And that is actually one of the reasons for the deaths, because it attacks it so vicariously is that it releases so much of chemicals in the body that the people die. So what you want is the eye of a fish. Just you want a spike protein related antibodies, just this specific one, not the whole thing. So it's not bad to have the antibody against the whole virus, but when you take a vaccine against the spike protein, then your immunity is kind of a specific. That way you are protected without a side effect. But the thing is that if you already had a infection and you recovered, then you don't have to rush or you don't have to panic to, I need a vaccine, I need a vaccine. You can wait few months. That way you will actually have a better idea about any potential side effect also. So you are in a better place if you recovered from the infection. And then some people were asking me that will this vaccine protect against this new variant, UK variant, all those things. So that is important thing to understand, which I quickly will explain, that when you make the antibody that I showed you, it makes antibody against the whole thing, whole spike, not just one area of the spike, not just the tiny area. So when the mutation happens, it is a small area on the spike protein mRNA. So it doesn't matter. The small area may be like broken off, but then it's still going to get killed. So 99.9% this current vaccine is going to cover the new variant also. So don't worry about it. So even if you had an infection, that antibody is going to take care of the new variant. And if you have the vaccine, that should take care of it. Now, this part, we don't know for sure because only time can tell us, but logically it makes sense to say that, well, it should protect you regardless of the variant. So that should give you a little bit of peace of mind there, because otherwise, if you read the newspaper, it's, oh, wow, now I got over with this COVID, I got the vaccine, and now there's something new coming up. So here we go again. So probably you would not have to worry about that.
I have a question. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Yours was very, very
You're welcome.
informative. At the same time, you caught our attention very nicely, continuously. My question is, in case there is a reaction, I'm, my second shot is going to come next very soon. Is Tylenol against any of the other medications? Is there any condition in which we should not take Tylenol against body pain and pain after the vaccination?
Well, if you have any liver problem, you should not be taking Tylenol.
Okay.
Some people have cirrhosis of the liver and things like that. But for most people, taking 1 or 2 Tylenol should be okay. For most people, there are only few rare exceptions where we would not recommend to take Tylenol, and especially not popping the Tylenol every 2 hours. There's some people who will say, oh, let me take Tylenol, let me take Tylenol. No, not like that. Not more than 4 tablets in 24 hours,
yeah,
for sure. But taking 1 or 2, anything that is any poison in an appropriate quantity is amrut. And any amrut in an inappropriate quantity is a poison.
Thank you.
Dr. Shah, I have another question. For those of us taking
Yes.
our second round of vaccination, is there any benefit in taking 1 dose of Tylenol before and another after,
Oh, yeah.
just as a precaution?
Yeah.
What is the question?
That's
After is given.
Well, especially if you had a slight reaction with the first dose, it may not be a bad idea to go ahead and take it. And typically the reaction part doesn't start until 5 to 6 hours after the vaccination. It doesn't immediately start hurting, or you don't start having chills and headache and body ache right away. So, and the Tylenol takes, around 45 minutes to an hour to kick in. So from that timeline, if you want to take Tylenol maybe 3 hours after your shot, that should kick in at the appropriate time when you are supposed to start getting the side effects of the vaccine. And that way you won't feel much. And then you can repeat it every 6 hours as needed. If you think that you are doing okay and you don't need it, then you make your own judgment. You can listen to your body, and your body will tell you. If you pay attention to your body will tell you that, you know what, I need 1 more Tylenol.
Yeah,
So
the Tylenol is
can-
so expensive, so I'm wondering if taking 1 has any marginal benefit, any benefit. My direct question
Tylenol-
is there any benefit in taking it an hour or 2 hours before getting the vaccination?
Not based on my understanding, Tylenol, because as I said that the body will not start reacting until 4 to 5 hours after, because the body has to take up, when you put it in here, it goes in the muscle, then the muscle takes in the cells itself, then they digest the mRNA and all kinds of stuff. So that takes 4 to 5 hours for them to make that spike protein thing and then take it to the high command. So that 4 or 5 hours time, it's fine. The simple activity is going on. But when the commando starts reacting, that is when you start getting the reaction. So it takes 4 to 5 hours before you will actually feel anything most of the time, unless you are hyperallergic, then it's a different story. But very few people are hyperallergic. Most of the people take their own time to mount the response. So taking before the vaccine, maybe it like too much, you can take 3 hours after the shot. That makes sense. Yeah.
That makes so much
Okay,
sense.
I'll save my money. Thanks.
All right, Dr. Shah, we are so thankful. It's so informational. I know we may have tons of more questions, but we would like to invite you back for that. And I know you have to go, but if you can stay for just 2 or 3 more minutes, because it's still almost there. So because we have every month in the VanaPrastha session, we do a birthday song for the birthdays of the month. So if anyone is there for February birthdays, please raise your hand. But we know there is one special February birthday, so we have to do this. That is our Shushmaji. It was her birthday yesterday, and we have somebody sing her the Chinmaya Mission birthday song. So Rakeshji, 2 more minutes. Please stay with us. Then you get to stop off. All right. So let me just share my screen for a moment to make it look special for our dear Shushmaji, actually. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So there are some special, happy birthday song begins. Special for our Shushmaji. Go take it away.
Janmadinamidam Ai priya sakhe Shantanotu te sarvadamudam Prarthayamahe Bhavashatayushi Ishvara sada Tvam charakshatu Punyakarmada Kirtimarjaya Jivanam tava Bhavatu sarthakam Janmadinamidam Hai priya sakhe Shantanotu te Sarvadamudam Sarvadamudam Sarvadamudam.
Thank you. Everyone, clap, clap.
Urvarukamiva bandhanat mrityormukshiyamamritat. Very happy birthday, Sushma ji.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Did you all
Happy
notice
birthday.
I am forever 14 years old? That is why Gauri has kept 14 candles there.
Happy birthday, Sushmaji.
Thank you so much. Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
And I have put my contact detail in the chat. So if anybody wants to note it down, they can do it. My phone number, email, and Facebook, all 3 are there.
All right, Rakesh, I'm going to give it to everybody. Thank you so much. And we'll end our session today. So thank you so much for joining.
Bye-bye.
Nalini Auntie, can you go ahead and do the ending song, Shloka, please?
Just Purnamidam. Yeah. Only this. Okay. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Sujata.
We didn't
Have a
get
good
time
one.
to
Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining, everybody.
Sujata, it was a very good session today, really.
Yes.
Everything was so, we needed all this information.
Yeah, I think we should do some more of this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Definitely.
correct. Okay.
Yeah.
It was a very
Second
good
that, very,
session.
very
That's
good
very
session.
good.
Thank
Very
you.
good session.
Very,
It was
very good
productive.
system.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shashi Auntie, for joining. Are you back in Atlanta or no yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right. Hari Om. Have a good evening.
Hari Om.
Enjoy the rest of your Valentine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.